Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. How are you doing, people? As we get started for today's session of correlation and regression, if we take a look on the market development so far, it has been a subdued day for most of the major forex currency pairs. We haven't really seen any extended move in any of the major currency cross, and the range has been fairly narrow if we look at the last couple of days of volatility. And in this context of consolidation, we will be looking at the opportunities to go with the flow and try to take advantage of these rather silent price action as we are getting closer to the North American trading session, in which it is a possibility that price action might peak up already after the release of US economic data. We saw some spike in dollar, and again we are seeing increased volatility. So heading into the US session, we can expect the action to get more exciting, more interesting moving ahead. And here is the USD JPY chart with each candle period defined at 5 minute time. And I have added these Duncan channel 24 and 48 to get the price range of last 2 hours and 4 hours respectively. And we have these SMA 12 and SMA 24 to look at the price average price prevailing over last 1 hour and 2 hours respectively. Now if we look at this chart, here you can see that there have been two distinct moves, the extended moves in the USD JPY in today's trading session spread across Asia and Europe. If we look at this prior Asian trading session here, the day started for USD JPY closer to 128.9, but it went on to decline more than 100 pips and made this low at the start of the European trading session. But after that, it reversed course, and here we stand looking at the USD JPY pretty much where it started the day. Now the question is if it is likely to continue this upward move, or if it has moved and it is likely to resume the move on the lower side. But I feel now this consolidation phase is likely to last a bit more longer, and we are likely to see this range of around 150 to 200 pips prevailing over the next couple of days also, unless there is any significant price move which might change the course of action. But if we look at these price moves here, the USD JPY went up and gave up all of those gains, and after that it again found support closer to this prior swing high. So as long as this price level holds above 127, we can be fairly confident of this ongoing consolidation, and this gives us a price range to look for the trading opportunities. So as and when we get this range and the price which is providing us optimum risk reward ratio, we can take our chances. So here if we look at the USD JPY, it is now trading closer to this resistance zone. So here for next couple of hours at least, we can go with a objective of finding the suitable short sell entry point closer to this high of the range. And I think for next couple of hours at least, we can expect the USD JPY to hold below this 128.8 range, and we can try to take advantage of this 4 hourly range and try to make some money. So that is what the chart is telling us. But we also have to decide if the USD JPY is the best bet, if it is the currency you should be trading with, or if there are better opportunities which are giving us a clearer view. So for that, we have to get our correlational analysis done. So we will be looking at the USD's moves in particular against almost all of the major currencies like Euro, GBP, AUD, NZD, USD, CHF, not USD, CHF, and CAD, and JPY. We have already seen the charting for it, which is showing us the consolidation with the larger bias on the bearish side. So let's see what's the story for Euro USD. Euro USD has also continued to consolidate with support coming into play at around 1.08. In today's session, it started closer to the yesterday's lows, but this sharp move took it almost 40 to 50 pips higher, though it hasn't really been able to sustain. And at the moment, the momentum is again looking bearish with this formation of lower lows and lower highs. So the euro is not in a bullish trend in today's session against the dollar. So we will have to keep this fact in mind and trade our positions accordingly. So in today's session, the consolidation phase is ongoing with not much of clarity on the trend front. We can simply try to exploit the range where we have this defined range of around 40 to 50 pips with support coming into play on the lower side and resistance on the higher side. Now that the Euro USD is caught in between this middle level with the current inclination on the bearish side, it is preferable to go short rather than go long at the current levels. But then you have to bear in mind that it might not really go anywhere and it might simply consolidate and spend much of its time within this range. So that really shortens our expectations of profiting much, because if it is not really going to dip much on the lower side, then it becomes very difficult to make decent enough profit after considering the cost associated with the trading. And coming to the relative strength of the JPY and the euro, both are on the weaker footing in respect of trading against the dollar. So the dollar is apparently on the stronger side for last couple of hours at least. And if we look at the price trajectory of the euro and the USD JPY, we will have to invert the scale for one of the instrument. Now, as euro had made its high at 1240, let's see when the JPY made its high. JPY made its high quite earlier. So in that context, the euro becomes stronger than the JPY. It is more bullish, or you can say less bearish against the dollar. But if that thing is likely to persist or not, now if we look at the USD JPY immediate price trajectory, it is at its closer to the lowest point for today's session, and the near term inclination is on the lower side. So here the one thing is clear that JPY is less bullish compared to the euro, and we have to then prioritize. If we want to go for a long trade against the dollar, then euro stands a better chance. If we expect the dollar to weaken further and short the dollar, then sorry, go if you want to go for the short sell trade, then USD JPY is a better choice. Now let's compare the GBP. GBP is also consolidating in a narrow price range. The spike we saw after the release of US economic data, and on the higher side, it is also facing resistance. So here also, the story is not really much different, but if we look at the timeline of this making high and low, the GBP is on the weaker footing compared to the euro in today's session, while JPY is the weakest of all these three. So we have this relative strength where euro is, you can say, most bullish, followed by GBP and followed by JPY against the dollar. Now we consider Asia Pacific currencies. AUD seems to be reversing course. For throughout the day, AUD has been one of the most bearish currency against the dollar. It has continued to make these lower highs and lower lows, but then the spike is happening here. But still, overall, the larger picture is a lot more bearish for the AUD, and it has declined substantially, starting this high level of around 0.7060 for larger part of last week and prior to today's session also. The AUD was one of the strongest, most bullish currency against dollar, but that phase seems to be over, with it now taking on the role of most bearish currency against the dollar. Let's see NZD USD. NZD is also in line with its Asia Pacific peer AUD, and here if we consider this move from lower side to higher side, the NZD is even more bearish compared to the AUD. And if we look at the hourly charting, it is telling the same story. So in today's session, we have the NZD as the most bearish and Euro as the most bullish currency trading against the dollar, while most other currencies are falling in between this spectrum. Now looking at USD CHF, the CHF is also apparently on the weaker side. It is also having this formation of higher highs and higher lows, with higher time frame charting telling us that this consolidation is ongoing since yesterday's price move, the reversal from these low levels, and now it is trying to break the ground, trying to break free of this immediate range, and it will be interesting to see how things shape up moving forward. So here we have the USD CHF also, which is looking bearish against the dollar. So you can also keep looking for the buy on dips trade in USD CHF. If we compare it to USD JPY, the JPY is less bearish against the dollar in comparison to the CHF, and Euro even less so. Now let's see USD CAD. And it seems CAD is actually one of the strongest currency here in trading against the dollar, as after this consolidation, long consolidation, it is breaking ground on the lower side, pushing the USD CAD lower. So that puts the CAD as one of the strongest trading against the dollar, with it forming this new swing low. And if we look at the larger time frame charting, it is happening after this extended rise earlier. So you can say in the larger context, this can be a retracement move also, but for the immediate term, the CAD is one of the strongest currency trading against the dollar. So now if we have to do the ranking of all the major currencies which we have seen so far, to get a clearer picture and to know which currency to target, we have this CHF, which is looking the bearish one against the dollar, while we have CAD, which is looking strongly bullish in immediate term against the dollar. So, and other currencies are falling in between. AUD, which was quite bearish earlier in the day is now correcting somewhat, but it is not showing fresh bullish strength, so it is better to be avoided. Nor it is looking exactly bearish at the moment, which is the story with the USD CHF. And if you look at the USD JPY, the JPY is providing us the consolidation trade at the levels closer to the recent swing high, so this can also be looked into. But CAD is apparently much more bullish against the dollar compared to the JPY's strength against the dollar. So we have these case where the CAD is the most bullish against the dollar and CHF is apparently the least bullish, or you can say more bearish against the dollar. So we will have to look at this spectrum and then plan our trades accordingly. So basically this, you will have to keep this range in mind, and I think USD CHF being bearish for today's session, we can keep looking for the opportunities as long as it holds above this 0.9150 level. And for USD CAD, we can keep looking for short selling opportunities as long as it holds below this 1.352 mark. So in this range we can indeed profit if we go with the flow and go with the most bullish instrument for the buy trade and most bearish instrument for the sell trade against the dollar. As there is not much of clarity, there is no larger trend prevailing in today's session. It is a day of consolidation, and we will have to be ready for muted price action and try to exploit the given range and trade within the range, so that increases the chances of getting the trade right and exit in a profitable manner. Now, taking a glance on the equity side, here in yesterday's session also I had talked about the relative weakness prevailing in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the Dow has declined substantially from yesterday's levels of 34,000 to trade around 33,000. Now if we have to look at its immediate price moves, I think it is also likely to spend the day in a consolidation phase, but the undertone is bearish, so we will have to avoid any kind of hasty entries to go for the retracement trades. Instead of that, we can take our chances, and instead of that, we can avoid taking chances and wait for better opportunities after due consolidation, while keeping an eye on possible reversal again on the lower side. So if we have to compare the three major equity indices for the US, not much seems to have changed, with Nasdaq, whose decline is lesser compared to the other equity indices for the US. Let's look the hourly time frame. Even on the hourly time frame, its decline in terms of the magnitude is less for today's session. Now let's look at the timeline of its rise and decline. It made this immediate swing low at 15:30 GMT. Same for the Dow, and I think same for the S&P 500. So there is not much of a difference in the timeline. All three equity indices are trading in a bearish manner, and if we look at the magnitude, it is just little less than 1 percentage point for the S&P 500. For the Dow, it is also little less than 1 percentage point, and Nasdaq is over 1 percentage point. So in that context, we can put the Nasdaq as a more volatile one and also more bearish one for the day. US in yesterday's session, Nasdaq was actually the least bearish one of the three equity indices. It was also showing in initial hours the tendency to rise, but then it also reversed course and all three equity indices nosedived. And the same undertone is apparent in today's session also. Though we can expect some retracement from these levels, the price seems to be holding closer to this range. But given the undertone being bearish, I think it is better if we go for a trade with the flow and go for and keep looking for short selling opportunities. Right now, I think it is better to adopt a wait and watch approach as extended move has already happened, and that increases the risk while lowering the chances of making decent profit in this session. So here the key takeaway is that we should be bracing ourselves for the consolidation phase, and today we might see the subdued price moves in US equity segment also, as is the case with the major forex currency. So we will have to gear up for less active trading session unless any significant development changes the course. So that's my take looking at the current developments for the US equities also. And in a couple of minutes, we will have the US session open for trading. So thank you all for joining in, and I hope you would be in a better position to finalize which instrument to trade in a which direction. As I talked about, we have the CHF, which is list bullish against dollar, and we have CAD as the most bullish against the dollar, while other currencies are falling in between these spectrum. And on the equity side, we have the Nasdaq as having a higher momentum. It is having the increased volatility, while all three equity indices are bearish. We have Nasdaq, which is looking a bit more bearish. So that is the distinction in these equity indices for the United States. So with that, I am signing off for the day. I hope you will be having a great day ahead. See you next time around with interesting insight in tomorrow's price action. So thank you all for joining in. Have a fabulous time ahead. See you next time around. Goodbye.